Dinner that evening was quiet, almost ceremonial. The kind of quiet that carried weight, not peace. The long mahogany table between them felt like a border, one neither of them had the desire to cross. Emily, now Mrs. Lancaster, sat at the far end, her posture perfect, her expression unreadable. She twirled her wineglass by the stem, eyes following the movement with idle grace. Ethan studied her in silence, picking apart her gestures, searching for inconsistencies. He wasn't sure what he expected to find. "Do you remember the lake house?" she asked suddenly, without looking at him. The words hit like cold water. He leaned back in his chair. "What about it?" Her lips curved ever so slightly. "The swing by the dock. You used to sit there with a book you never read." Ethan froze. That memory was buried, deliberately. Only Lena had been with him that summer. Only she would know that. He set his fork down. "I didn't realize you'd ever been to the lake house." "I wasn't," she said, finally meeting his gaze. "But I remember it all the same." He tilted his head, trying to read behind her expression. "How?" "People talk," she said softly. "Memories get passed down." "But that wasn't public." His voice had gone quieter, darker. "Only one person was there with me that summer." She held his stare, then said, with disarming calm, "You're mistaken, Ethan. You just don't remember clearly." "Aye," and just like that, the air thickened again. Not from tension, but from something colder. Confusion. Ethan wanted to press her, but there was a rhythm to her presence that unsettled him. She wasn't flustered. She didn't second-guess her words. Emily, the Emily he was told he was marrying, had always been hesitant, cautious, shy. This woman across from him? She spoke with precision. She wore stillness like armor. "Do you regret it?" she asked, pouring herself more wine. "Regret what?" "This arrangement." "Me." Ethan paused. "It's early for regrets." She smiled, the same subtle, sharp-edged smile from the ceremony. "Not so early," she said. "Some people regret things before they even happen." The clink of her glass meeting the table was the only sound for several seconds. Then she stood, graceful as ever. "I'm tired," she murmured. "It's been a long day of pretending." And with that, she walked away, leaving Ethan alone with a plate gone cold and a mind beginning to fracture. The house was quiet the next morning, too quiet for a place newly inhabited by a married couple. Ethan wandered through the corridors with a coffee he didn't want, pausing in front of the study. The door was slightly ajar. He pushed it open. Emily's suitcase was there, half unpacked, books neatly stacked, a pair of gloves, and a small wooden box tucked under a shawl on the writing desk. He hesitated only a second before lifting the lid. Inside were letters, some folded, others torn at the edges. At the very bottom, an envelope sealed with wax, faded but intact. The handwriting across it read, "For Margaret, if anything happens." He didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, he picked up a brooch nestled in silk, a small silver locket shaped like a crescent moon. On the back, engraved in delicate script, "Lena." He blinked. It could have been a keepsake, a leftover from her sister. But why carry it now? Why here? The sound of soft footsteps made him stiffen. Emily stood in the doorway, hair loose over her shoulders, wearing a navy robe that clung to her frame like it had been chosen for effect. "You shouldn't be in here," she said evenly. He didn't look guilty, just curious. "You kept her things," he said. "Your sister's." She walked in slowly, her bare feet silent on the wood. "I kept pieces of a life that was taken too soon. There's no crime in that." He held up the brooch. This doesn't feel like grief. Her eyes flicked to the object, then back to him. And what does grief feel like to you, Ethan? Something loud? Messy? No, he said, but it's rarely this composed. She moved past him to close the box, doing it gently, like it held bones. Then she turned and leaned against the desk, facing him with unreadable calm. "Is this where you accuse me?" she asked. He said nothing. She let the silence stretch until it became uncomfortable. "You think I'm her, don't you?" His jaw tightened. "I think," he said slowly, "I married someone who knows how to play roles." A soft chuckle escaped her lips. "Then we're not so different." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "If you're Lena, why hide it?" She didn't blink. "And if I'm not, why are you hoping I am?" He had no answer for that. She brushed past him without another word, her perfume trailing behind like a shadow. As the door shut softly behind her, Ethan looked back at the box, and this time, he opened the letter. The letter was brief. "She's not ready. I tried to stop her. If anything happens, don't believe the first story you're told." No signature, no date, just the same delicate handwriting as the envelope. But Ethan knew it was Lena's. He remembered the slant of her cursive from old birthday cards, from one note she left tucked into a book years ago. He remembered because he'd kept it longer than he should have. That morning, he went to the guest wing. Margaret was finishing her tea, sitting near the window with a view of the rose garden, as serene as ever. Too serene. She looked up when he entered, not startled, prepared. "Margaret," he said, "we need to talk." She gestured to the seat across from her. "Then sit." He did. He placed the brooch and the letter on the table between them. Her fingers curled inward as if resisting the instinct to snatch them away. "You knew," Ethan said quietly. "Before the wedding." Margaret didn't answer right away. Her eyes moved to the garden. "Some things are better left untouched." "Why?" he asked. "To protect me?" "To protect them," she said, her voice harder now. "Both of them have lived in the shadow of what others expected. One was too wild, the other too invisible. And in the end, it broke them both." He stared at her. "Tell me who I married." She exhaled, slow and weary. "Would it change anything, Ethan?" "Yes." "Would it, though?" She finally met his eyes. "She's been broken since before you ever came into the picture. You just happened to walk in at the last act." Ethan leaned forward. "I'm not asking as a husband. I'm asking as a man who wants the truth." Margaret's eyes softened, but her lips remained sealed. Some truths take root only in silence. If she wanted you to know, she'd tell you herself. "She has told me," he snapped, "just not with words." Margaret smiled, almost sadly. "Then maybe you already have your answer." He stood up, frustrated. But just as he turned to leave, Margaret spoke again, barely above a whisper. "She loved you. They both did. That's the tragedy, Ethan. You never noticed, until it was already too late." The lake house had been forgotten for years, like a folded memory at the back of a drawer. Ethan hadn't spoken of it to anyone, not even his closest friends, and certainly not to Emily. But now, her words haunted him. That swing by the dock, the unread book, the kiss. He hadn't let himself think about it in years. That single kiss, under fading orange skies, when he was too proud to admit how much Lena had rattled him. It had been wild, stupid, real. And the next day, she vanished. Just gone. No note, no call. He remembered standing at the water's edge, looking out at the empty swing, the way it swayed without wind. That night, Ethan returned to the study. He didn't knock. Emily was sitting at the desk, reading. She didn't look surprised to see him. "You lied," he said quietly. She looked up. "About what?" "You said people talk, but no one could have told you what happened that night at the lake." She said nothing. "You kissed me," he continued, "and then you disappeared." She closed the book. "You kissed me first." Ethan felt something crack open inside. Not just memory, recognition. "That wasn't Emily," he said. "It was you. You're Lena." She tilted her head. "And if I am?" His breath caught. "Then you've lied to everyone, to your family, to me." She stood slowly, walking toward him. "I told the truth that mattered. I loved you. That wasn't a lie." He stepped back, shaken. "You faked your sister's life to marry me?" "No," she said. "I buried my own life so someone could finally see me. I tried being the wild one. It scared you. So I became the version of me you'd accept." "That's not love," Ethan said. "That's manipulation." She didn't flinch. Or maybe it's survival. They stared at each other. Two people who once shared a summer, now standing on opposite shores of the same memory. "You left me," he said, almost to himself. "I had no choice," she replied. "I was told to disappear. So I did." And Emily took the blame. Silence fell between them again. Finally, Ethan said, "So, what now? Do we keep playing house, pretending none of this ever happened?" Lena, or whoever she truly was, gave him a tired smile. "No," she whispered. "Now we stop pretending." And she walked out, leaving Ethan staring at the empty swing in his mind, still swaying. He couldn't sleep. After hours of pacing and replaying every conversation, Ethan found himself wandering the halls like a ghost. Every room held something unfamiliar. A fragrance, a misplaced book, a locked drawer. He ended up in the guest wing again, outside Margaret's door. It was cracked open. She wasn't there. The light on her writing desk was still on, casting a golden pool over papers and boxes. He hesitated for just a moment before stepping inside. That's when he saw it. An old tape recorder. Analog. Dusty, but intact. A labeled cassette already inside. The tape read, July 15th, kitchen. He pressed play, a soft click. Then the rustle of fabric. Two voices, female. One was high, anxious. The other, lower, sharp. "You can't do this, Lena. I have to. You don't understand. He doesn't see me. He never has. He does see you. You just never gave him time. No, he saw you. Sweet, obedient Emily. The one who never raised her voice. He kissed me once, then forgot me like I was air. That's not true. It is, and you know it. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life being invisible." A pause, then the unmistakable sound of glass breaking. "I won't let you ruin everything. You don't have a choice anymore." The tape hissed, then nothing. Ethan sat back, stunned. He played it again, then again, trying to distinguish the voices, to be sure. But even as he tried to separate them, he realized something more disturbing. They sounded the same. Exactly the same. When the tape finally stopped, he let the silence press in around him. There had been a fight, a confrontation, a decision. And then, one sister vanished. He pressed rewind, but halfway through, the tape jammed. It clicked, whined, and stopped, like it had reached its limit, like it didn't want to be heard again. Ethan sat in the dark, the static echoing in his ears. Whatever happened before the wedding, it hadn't been a choice. It had been a takeover. And someone, maybe both, had paid the price. Lena was in the garden when Ethan found her, barefoot in the dew-damp grass, wearing one of Emily's old cardigans. She didn't look up when he called her name. Lena. She kept her eyes on the roses. So it's out. He held the tape in his hand. You recorded everything. She glanced sideways. Not everything. Just what mattered. You fought, he said, voice raw. There was a struggle. Her shoulders stiffened. She was scared. She thought I was going to take everything from her. Weren't you? She turned now, slow and deliberate. No. I was trying to take something back. Ethan took a step forward. What happened that night? Lena's jaw tightened. She left. Just like that? I told her the truth. I told her I wanted to switch places. Just for a little while. Just to see if you'd notice. She was hurt, angry. But she agreed. Why? Because deep down, she wanted to disappear too. Ethan stared at her, pulse pounding. And then, she never came back. Lena hesitated. She wrote a letter. Said she needed space, time. She didn't say where she went. I waited. I kept her things ready, but she never came home. Did you report it? No one would have believed me. They already thought I was her. Margaret knows. Lena nodded. She begged me to stay quiet. Said it would ruin everything. The family name, the arrangement, your trust. Ethan paced a few steps away, trying to process. So instead of telling me the truth, you wore her like a costume. Lena's voice cracked. It wasn't a costume, Ethan. It was the closest I ever felt to being seen. You looked at me like I mattered. For once, he turned sharply. Because I thought you were someone else. Tears welled in her eyes. No, because you finally gave me the space to be soft, to be still. I didn't have to scream to be noticed. Silence fell between them. Then Ethan asked, voice low, Did you love me? Back then? She nodded. And I never stopped. His chest tightened. You shouldn't have lied, he said. I know. He looked down at the tape again, at the past, at the damage. Then back at her. Not Emily, not Lena. Just a woman standing in the ruins of too many secrets. Then prove it, he said. Tell me the whole truth. She didn't answer. Not yet. But her silence wasn't the same anymore. It was the kind that precedes confession. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting long shadows over the room. Ethan couldn't bring himself to leave the guest wing. He felt like something crucial was on the verge of breaking, as though the weight of the house itself might crack under the pressure. He sat down on the bed, eyes roaming across the room. The things he'd opened, the drawers he'd rifled through, each discovery leading him further into a maze of lies. But there was still one place left to look. The drawer beside the bed, the one he'd assumed was empty. Ethan yanked it open, and there it was. A letter, yellowed with age, folded neatly in half. The ink was faded, the paper worn at the edges. He turned it over, expecting nothing more than another ghost of the past, another piece of a story he couldn't piece together. But the handwriting, he knew it immediately. Lena's. He sat back, breath catching in his throat as he unfolded the paper. Margaret, I'm leaving tonight. I can't pretend anymore. Not with Ethan. He's never seen me the way I need him to, the way I deserve. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm not going to spend it hiding. Tell Emily I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt her. I'm taking my things and going. I hope she understands. I can't stay where no one sees me, where I'm just the shadow of someone else. Ethan's hand trembled as he read the final lines. Please don't tell anyone. I'll disappear. Maybe one day he'll remember. but not today. He sat there, stunned, until the words blurred into meaning. The letter was real. The goodbye was real. But it wasn't meant for him. It was meant for someone else. Ethan's pulse quickened. He couldn't take his eyes off the last part. "Tell Emily I'm sorry." Emily. Not Lena. He jumped to his feet, heart hammering. If Emily hadn't disappeared, if Lena had been the one who truly ran away, then who was the woman sitting in that house? Who had married him? He went to the closet, pulling at the sleeve of the jacket Emily had worn that night. The fabric was smoother than it had been just hours before, but now, under his fingers, it felt like a costume. And it all clicked. Emily, his wife, hadn't disappeared. She was still here, but she hadn't come back. It had always been Lena who stayed. And now the truth was finally breaking through the cracks. Ethan's legs carried him back to the study on their own, his mind a whirlwind of confusion, anger, and something darker. The letter was still clenched in his hand, but he hadn't read it again. There was no need. The truth had already shattered the illusions that had held together everything he thought he knew. Margaret was in her usual spot by the window, her face turned away from the fading sunlight. She didn't look up when he entered. He placed the letter on the desk, the old paper crackling between them. "You knew," Ethan said, his voice strained, barely holding it together. "You knew all along." Margaret didn't answer immediately. She simply reached for the glass of water beside her, took a sip, then set it down, still without a word. "Why?" he pressed. "Why didn't you tell me?" Margaret finally turned toward him, her eyes tired but knowing. She'd been waiting for this moment, for him to ask. "Lena died the day before your wedding, Ethan," she said quietly. "The accident. It wasn't a mistake. She was gone." The words hit him like a slap. His mind scrambled for clarity, for understanding. No, that can't be right. She was there. She was there at the ceremony. I saw her. I kissed her." Margaret's face softened. "It wasn't Lena who you kissed, Ethan. It was Emily. She took Lena's place, not because she wanted to, but because she had to." Ethan staggered back, gripping the back of a chair for support. "You're telling me that Emily, the woman I married, isn't the woman I thought she was?" Margaret nodded, her lips thin with sorrow. "Emily was always the quiet one, the one who hid in the background. But when Lena was gone, when she died, Emily didn't know what else to do. She couldn't let her sister's death be in vain, not like that. So she made the choice to pretend, to be Lena, for you, for herself, to give herself a chance to be seen, to be free. But she lied to me," Ethan said, his voice thick with disbelief. "She lied to all of us." Margaret's eyes were full of pity now. "She didn't lie to hurt you, Ethan. She lied to protect what little was left of her family. She took Lena's place to survive." A cold silence stretched between them. Ethan didn't know what to say, his mind still reeling from the revelation. "Why didn't she tell me?" he asked finally, voice breaking. Margaret looked away, her gaze drifting to the horizon. "Some truths, Ethan, are too heavy to bear. And some things, when they're broken, don't heal properly. Emily didn't want to lose you, and she thought that if you knew the truth, she would." Ethan stood motionless, the weight of the truth settling in like a suffocating fog. He had married the right woman, but for all the wrong reasons. He was still in love with her, but would it ever be enough to rebuild what had been lost? Ethan stood at the threshold of their bedroom, the door open, but his body frozen in place. The space inside was quiet, too quiet. like it had been waiting for this moment, waiting for the truth to finally spill out. He saw her standing by the vanity mirror. Emily, or the woman who had been Emily, who had been Lena, the woman who had pretended to be everything Ethan had ever wanted. But now, in the silence of the room, there were no more masks. She wasn't wearing the familiar smile that had once been so comforting. She wasn't playing the role of the perfect wife, the kind woman he'd believed in. Now, all that remained was the rawness of who she really was, stripped bare. There was no charm, no sweetness, just exhaustion, just the hollow look of someone who had carried too many burdens for too long. Ethan stepped forward, his voice quiet but full of a quiet storm. Emily. She didn't turn immediately. When she did, her eyes met his without the usual softness, but with something sharper, something more real. "Why did you do it?" Ethan's words shook as he asked, each syllable heavy with betrayal. "Why did you pretend?" She smiled faintly, though the smile didn't reach her eyes. "Because it was the only way I could survive. I couldn't live in the shadow of my sister anymore. I couldn't be the quiet one, the invisible one, who everyone overlooked. I couldn't be nothing, not again. But He stopped himself. "I loved you. I thought you were Lena. I thought I had everything." "I know you did." Her voice broke slightly, her composure slipping just enough for him to see the pain that lingered underneath. "I wasn't her, Ethan. I wasn't ever her. But I was the one who loved you. I was the one who stayed." He took a step closer. "But you didn't tell me. You let me believe." She shook her head, cutting him off. "What difference would it have made? Would you have loved me more if you'd known the truth? Would you have stayed?" He couldn't answer her. He didn't know. He was suffocating in the emptiness between them, in the vast space of everything that was unsaid. "I wasn't Lena," she repeated, quieter now. "But I carried everything for her. I carried her name, her life. I tried to live for both of us, even though you only saw her." Ethan stepped back, as if the words had physically knocked him away. "You let me fall in love with a lie." Emily looked down at her hands, her fingers trembling slightly. "You didn't fall in love with a lie, Ethan. You fell in love with me, the person I became. But I wasn't real enough for you. And maybe I never could have been." A long pause passed between them, filled only by the sound of their breath and the distant hum of the house. Then, without another word, Emily walked past him, the door clicking shut behind her. Her footsteps faded into the hallway, leaving him alone in the room. Ethan stood there, his chest tight, his mind a storm of confusion, regret, and something else, something even deeper than the pain. He went to the mirror, staring at the man who was now a stranger to him. The reflection was him, but somehow it wasn't. Who was I? The question swirled in his mind like a forgotten dream. He turned to the window, where the sunlight streamed in at an odd angle, casting a shadow on the floor. In the dim reflection, he saw his face again. But this time, something was missing. It wasn't just the truth about Emily, or Lena, or what he thought he had. It was the feeling that he had never truly understood himself. He exhaled slowly, eyes still fixed on the window. "I never knew who she was," he whispered to the empty room, "because I never knew who I was." And as the sun dipped lower, he remained there, alone with the echoes of his own identity, no longer sure of what was real or who could ever truly be trusted. If you enjoyed the story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think of the plot and the characters. Your feedback means a lot.